The recording started. Welcome to the fourth session of our Why Play Works book club. This month we're focusing on purposeful changes and transitions and making the best of the situation that we're in, which I didn't really plan for this topic to be a January topic, but it seems really appropriate for January to be talking about purposeful changes and transitions. And I just wanted to start with chatting a little bit. What are the changes or transitions that you're thinking about this time of year in your personal life or professional life? Do you make resolutions for the new year? Do you try to start new habits or end new habits in January?
I'll just jump in with this. Like, I don't because I think this is a teacher problem. I think I've just been in education for so long that my brain doesn't work on a January to December schedule. I work on a September to August schedule. And so for me, my like sort of new when I the time I start reflecting on my new intentions tends to be when my kids go back to school in late August and September, when I feel like I have some brain space again. And I'm wanting to do new things, and so it sort of feels like the new start. But January just feels like the middle of the year. Like it, I don't know. So that's my. So this is not a time, not to like punch a hole in the balloon. Sorry, Sandra.
No,
It's just not a time of year when I reflect on things. Like I just don't. I'm
uh-huh.
usually exhausted. Like I've just come off the holidays and super big family stuff, and yeah, I just sort of like keep on going. Oh, I will share though, in the spirit of life changes, my dad got engaged over on New Year's. Yeah, which is great. Which is sorry. That's everyone always asks me, like, do you like her? Yes, she's great. She's great for my dad. Thrilled for them. Was a little surprised to find out yesterday that the wedding is March 9th. Okay. Thanks for the notice, Dad.
Where?
California. So I get to go. I mean, right. I was just in there because that's where my whole family is.
Yeah.
So it's just there for the holidays for New Year's. So I guess we're going back again, or at least half my family is half my family can't make it because schedules have been set.
Yeah.
So anyway, so yeah, that's my life transition news on the older end.
We had some automatic transitions here at school because it's in the semester, so that's when our college students leave. We have, people go off to student teach. We have people that, hey, I can't work here anymore because this or that. I did have a major transition. One of our sites, we have because of that, we had college students running the program. One went off to student teach. The other is pre-med. So she went on to she has to have all these clinical hours for her to get into PA school. So she went to work at the nursing home, which, she's got to do that, right? Because we have this RHOP program and she needs to do that Rural Health Opportunities program. So we have a new site coordinator. So that was a nice time to make, we have existing staff there and then a couple new staff members and this new site coordinator. So that was a time for us to make changes a little bit in updating things like, hey, let's do this way. So we made some different changes and transitions, not a lot. I was there the first 2 days this week and reviewing procedures and rules, and the kids did great. The first day I couldn't believe it because she wasn't there the first day either. She's a one-on-one para, had IEP that day. So I was her that day and I'm like, oh no, I hope the kids remember from, December what the procedures are. And they did a great job. And so one of the things that she's going to start, and I think we started Tuesday, is she's going, how it's really hectic when they come in to sign in and go do snack. It's in the gym. It's third and fourth graders. It's chaotic, and they all have to go put their backpacks in a certain spot and sit in front of them. And then staff members come with a hand sanitizer because we don't have the opportunity for them to go to the bathrooms and wash their hands before they eat. So they give them hand sanitizer before they can go up and get their snack and then sign in. Well, it's just gets kind of crazy a little bit. So she's starting think, share, pair. So every day there's going to be a question of the day and they have to think about that, pair with someone next to them, share their answer before they can proceed on to the snack and sign in process. So that really helped on Tuesday. Monday went pretty good anyhow because we just kept them in a holding pattern around the edge of the gym, but this think, share, pair helped them stop and think and take a little breath instead of just running to drop down their backpack, running to go, you know, you got to stop, you got to think, you got to talk to this person next to you. And it was kind of nice because it's not necessarily their friends that are sitting next to you. It's somebody new, you know, it might be someone they don't even see during the day. So they have to talk to somebody different at after school about this question. And they're also reviewing the cardinal rules, which are be safe, be respectful, be responsible, do your best. And so each day, like Monday, I did do safe, be safe. Yesterday, you know, was be respectful, be responsible. They're reviewing those cardinal rules. So the question had to do kind of with that, you know, like, hey, so that's helped. That's a new transition. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah. And that's a good example of what they talk about in this section about being intentional about how what you're doing and how important routines and rituals can be.
Yeah. I think that example, I guess, just kind of warms my heart, because not only are you helping, in fact, I need some heartwarming because it's going to be darn cold outside, right, ladies? So, but you know, I'm thinking not only are you setting kind of a new expectation, but you're doing it in a way that it is socially and emotionally supportive. So think about that. You're calming them down prior to coming in instead of being rambunctious and so forth. And I know they're excited, but you're also then going back and thinking about your, you know, being present at the time, intentional, like you're saying, Sandra, you know, and why am I here? What am I doing? And then just the idea of them having the opportunity to speak to somebody that they maybe never have met, even in their entire time that they've attended school, because they're different age groups. I think that's delightful, because we know mentoring is important, you know, observing older children that you may not get to talk to, but, you know, they might become a pretty good buddy. You know, they might go and help them out in the playground from now on. You know, you just don't know where that connection might lead and the relationship that they could build. So I just think that's absolutely awesome. Good for you.
Then I put into practice some of the things I've learned from this book, because I really enjoyed reading it over the break. Put into practice on Monday night when I was doing the Be Safe academic focus lesson. We had to have captains. So I let the students pick the first captains, you know, but then I did kind of like in the book, second part of that, I picked the captain, and I picked the captain that's the naughty person, the one that's not paying attention, you know, just like in the book, they have these coaches, these little coaches, you know, and I picked a young man because I had boys versus girls, picked a young man who had been kind of not listening very well. He was the coach for the second round. Oh my gosh, then he just sat up and listened, and he was the only one that could talk to me and give me the answers, you know, for this little game we're playing. And then on the other side, I picked a young lady who doesn't speak at all, like hardly speaks at all. And one of my college students said, oh, I thought she was going to cry when you named her this coach, you know, but she's a young lady that nobody talks to, you know, she doesn't speak. So she got to be the captain, and everybody had to work together to come up with the answer, then only tell her or him, and then they could give me the answer in this game. And so I thought that was kind of like how they're doing that coaching, the kids coaching thing. And it works really good. It really works good. And then I was really thrilled yesterday to see, I was at the primary building, and that's K-12s, and one of my PE major staff members over there, she was doing a hula hoop game. And when it was like ring around, let's see, musical chairs with hula hoops, you know, going around. And when they both jumped in the hula hoop at the same time, they used the Rochambeau to solve who got out. I was like, yay, I'm so happy, you know, and she's going to be a great PE teacher. She probably learned that in one of her classes or something, I thought. And then the other schools, so just so happened they're doing a lot of I had them do a couple of these hula hoop different games from in here this week. We picked out, and so they're using them. And then she was doing the rock, paper, scissors, like relay weight game. And so she was going to try to teach them that Rochambeau, you know, to use that as a problem solving on Tuesday. That might have been on Wednesday. She doesn't do that Tuesday. I didn't hear how that went. Wednesday was a basketball thing. So, and it was the basketball game from out of here. So I've been making copies of these, scanning them in and having them use them. And so, do some different games and get to see that they're working. They're working. It's something new and different. They're loving them. As I asked the little boy, I think he's the 4th grader. He came to pick up his 2nd grade brother yesterday. He said, "Oh, what'd you do at CIA?" He goes, "Oh, we played a basketball game and it was really hard." And he was telling me all about it. I was at the primary building. I said, "Yay." So they tried that basketball game back here. So they tried it and he was explaining it to me. So I was just thrilled that they were trying these new things and they're kind of working and they're working out the kinks. And I mean, I really believe in a lot of the things that they're saying in this book. So
Lorna, do you find, I'm curious, in your experience and obviously anybody else's, do you find that your staff, especially your newer staff, like I hear you saying, they're trying new things and that's so cool. Do you find that they're reluctant to try new things or more that they don't know where to find new things? Like which,
I think it's kind of like it was like last semester's like, okay, we are not playing Hula Hut again. Like, I know they love Hula Hut, but let's try some different things. I think they get just comfortable, and they do try new games. They do try new games and they make up games. I had a PE major a few years ago. He was fabulous with K1-2s. He would make up these elaborate games. And the kids would, and he could teach it, he's going to be just a wonderful educator. He's in South Dakota, but I think they just get, could be a couple things. Don't know where to find it because if they're not like a PE major, don't have a lot of experiences with that.
Where would you find
don't know where to find it or just used to, like I had somebody ask me yesterday, a young man on my K1, "Can we play dodgeball?" I'm like, "Really, Cole, can you not come up with something?" No, you can't play dodgeball with the K1-2s. First of all, they don't know how to throw, they'll hit each other, they'll cry, They don't know where to find them or they're too don't take the time to look. And ask for the resources because there's so many good ones out there. I just said, "Hey, look at these resources. I want you guys to try them."
Well, and one of the reasons I asked that is because I was thinking as I was reading this week and we were talking about transitions and actually we were specifically when we were because we were asked to bring a game that we didn't see in the book. And I was like, "Oh, I have this game, but they're we used to play all the time, but I didn't love, I don't know. It has its perks and its, detractions. But I was thinking about there is it feels like there's sometimes a just in time moment to introduce a new game. Like when kids are melting down about one game, to have that sort of back pocket game you can pull out and be like, "Here's the new game." And so I was sort of thinking about timing of new games. And that's sort of tied into willingness and knowledgeability, I guess, of the after school staff about having new games. That I don't have an answer for it. It was just something that sort of surfaced as I was reading.
We have these 3rd and 4th graders go through activity. They have activity, they have academic focus, and then there's academic assistance, all going on kind of at the same time. And kids are rotating through these. So it's 30 minutes. We really try to do this 30 minutes of activity, which is usually physical activity. Not always. It might be community partner coming in and doing an activity, keep Shiner beautiful or something like that. But we try to do that 30-minute physical activity because we really know how important that is for them to get moving. And even I think it was Monday, they were planning Hula Hut, which the kids love, first day back, "Oh, let's play Hula Hut." But I'm like, "Oh, here's this other game." And there's one that's in the book where they just as a teamwork, it's more of a teamwork where they move the hula hoop through their bodies. And, so I don't know if they did that during that 30-minute time, but then at the end of the day, they had a little flex time, a little free time. And sometimes they get a voice and choice. What do you want to do? Do you want to continue playing that game we were playing? There wasn't really very many kids left at 5:15 or whatever. So then they tried this other, I saw them doing this other hula hoop game where they have to get in a circle and they have to work the hula hoop all the way around the circle without letting go of each other's hands. And so she introduced that new game because there wasn't enough kids left to play Hula Hut or to play anything else. And so she introduced it and she said they did fine. So I think that takes that person that's leaded. This gal does a really good job and she was this activity leader all week. She's really good at it. I think other people I have would struggle with that. They would struggle.
It's a skill set for sure, recognizing and knowing and being able to sort of pre-see the signs when kids are ready to move to a different activity for
Well, and I'm like,
so many
just
logistical reasons.
And just because it says, we're playing hula hoop for 30 minutes, you don't have to play hula hoop the whole time. Like, and if they're not behaving or if they're having people having problems with that, then you need to switch it up. And she did say one day, you just came down from the stage talking about safety with Mrs. Eliason. Are you guys being safe? They're like, oh, no, we're not. We just talked about what does being safe look like in the after school program. We played a game. And then she said, they
In one
came
year
to the
out the
gym,
other.
did some other, oh, would Mrs. Eliason like this? No, she would probably, you know what I mean? But so it kind of depends on who they are and if they have that classroom management, and some do and some don't.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks. I was just curious your take on it.
I think that figuring out how long to stick with a game is an art as well as a science.
100%.
Agreed.
So
I will say we also took up Rochambeau over the holidays because I ended up being ended up in the position of the adult supervisor of the cousins of all the little, like all the kids in the family. I get it. I get why that ends up being me every time, but it's fine. But right, like there's some contention. So I totally like from this book was like Rochambeau, solve all the problems.
Yeah.
It was great. So I was very appreciative of to have that in my back pocket over the holidays. So we preempted a lot of arguments that way.
You never know when a new talent, new knowledge can be applied, right? And you had the opportunity.
Indeed.
So I always try to summarize a little bit what we did the previous session before we move on into the new topic, just to kind of give us the context. We are almost to the end. We've got one more workshop in February and we'll get to the end of the book now. But last time we were talking about setting up group agreements, managing risk, and keeping kids safe. Some of the things that we were just talking about today with Lorna's kids. One of the key takeaways for me was around risk taking and safety, that it's really important to bounce that, because it is important that we equip children to be responsible risk takers, and that means they have to have some opportunities to take risks and to figure out what is safe and to make some of those decisions. So that idea that in order to prepare them, we need to give them the right amount of opportunities to take risk, whether it's through play or other things, other experiences, it's important for their development. When Becky and I talk about engineering, in teaching engineering, we often talk about the importance of having opportunities for failure, that things don't always work out when you're doing an engineering activity. And sometimes you want to build a model and make it fail to learn from that experience. So students need to experience failure to figure out how to learn from failure. If they don't have the experience of failing, they don't build those skills. And so I think that is an important component, that we want to keep kids safe, but figuring out how to have safe opportunities for risk was one of the things that I was thinking about a lot after our last session. And today, this section 118 through 143 is really about how to impose order in play, thinking about how to use your space, manage transitions, how to use rituals and signals to kind of create some order in the chaos that is a natural part of after school time. So we do have some discussion questions we can jump into, but I wanted to see first if there's anything that struck you in particular in this section that you wanted to be sure we talked about, and we can prioritize that if there's something that you wanted to dig into?
I thought it was kind of interesting about that, talking about being intentional with their play is with signage and cones and stuff, like designating areas. And I love the idea about where they were using powdered Kool-Aid to make the Foursquare, as I was watching our children play football on the ice covered playground the other day, I'm like, oh my God, is this being safe? But no one had to be taken to the hospital, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is bad, but what do? You come on Monday, first day back, and they're wanting to play, and there's snow everywhere. If they don't have boots on, they can't be in the snow, and there's all these rules. But I did like that idea about being intentional and having, sometimes when it's nice out, we will do like put out the cornhole or those kind of games like that the kids don't see very often. We'll set them out and that they might play with their families or at the beach in the summer, you know what I mean? Or whatever, the lake, or, at a tailgate or something. We'll bring out those games and set them out, and I don't know. I don't think they get to do enough of that. They just have playground balls and whatever, they don't get to play some of these other games, these yard games and stuff, I guess is what I was thinking. So I kind of like that, being intentional and saying, hey, this is where we're playing, bags. This is where we're playing this, whatever, washers or whatever, all those other games that you play at home or with your family and friends when you go on a tailgate or a summer picnic or something. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Box hockey was the one that I remembered.
Was it? What is it?
Box hockey.
I'm sorry. I'm going to need more information now because that sounds really
I'll
fun.
have
From
to.
California.
It's kind of like broom ball. I mean, is that broom ball?
Well,
Broom ball, I know.
Or I don't know about broom ball, so I don't know. Box hockey was like it was made out of 2x4s,
Okay.
and it was about 3 or 4 feet wide and 4 to 6 feet deep. So it's a rectangle made out of 2x4s, and then there was a 2x4 across the middle. So you had 2 halves, and the middle one had 2 little arches cut in it, and you used a wooden stick, nice dowel, and a wooden puck. And the idea, so the 2 ends had a goal in the center cut out in an arch out of the 2x4. And the goal is to get your puck through the other person's goal at the end of on their half of the box. The center had 2 sections you could go through, and the back end. So it's a little foosball-like.
Yeah, but
Played with kids sitting on the cement on either side of this box with their little sticks that they were
so
hitting
they're
each
sitting,
other.
not moving.
They're
Oh.
sitting on the ground, the box sits on the ground, and they're trying to play like foosball
Okay.
in person. It was every playground had a box hockey set up, and if you had a lot of kids, you had 2. And we had a shed that they kept in because it was a staple of life. And it was part of our routine too. It was one of the things that came out 5 o'clock or so when the numbers were getting down and you didn't have necessarily enough kids to play a big everybody game. So you would get out some of those smaller stations. And so when the box hockey came out, it was kind of that signal that we're moving down into activities that you can do with 2 to 4 or 2 to 5 people instead of whole group activities.
Sounds fun. Different than broom ball though. Broom.
So,
whatever.
So broom ball is like a running around game, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's basically hockey inside with
Ooh, broom ball.
brooms.
Broom ball was hockey. It's a broom on ice with hockey.
It can be a
goals
little
outside.
violent. We used to play it in a gym because I grew up in California.
Yeah, well, we played it on ice outside in South
Okay.
Dakota. It's nasty. It's kind of
it can be.
it was
can
more of a
be-
college. It was more of a college game. Yeah, probably not.
So we played it in middle. It was like middle and high school PE was like that was broom ball, but it was a total favorite for everyone, and it was super fun just because the gym we were in was the smaller gym, and so the walls counted. So you could ricochet off the walls, which was both dangerous and fun. In retrospect, I'm not sure
Had
why
a
they
little
allowed
bit,
us to
has
play
a little
that.
bit racquetball, like a racquetball feel. off
Yeah,
the
a little
wall.
bit like that. Exactly.
So basically everything was a part of the game, period.
Mhm.
You, the walls, whatever it might be bounce off of.
All
Becky.
fair.
All fair. Okay.
I'm not sure I'd rush to play it again as an adult. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Sandra. I'm totally gonna look that up. Looks fun. I was gonna say one of the I appreciated in this section that the sort of like, I don't know, specific defining of what a transition is. You know, and they talked about you know, William Bridges, and he said like every transition is three parts: an ending, a messy middle, and a new beginning. And I don't know. I liked that definition of it. Yeah, I don't know. That's one of the things that stuck with me. I was like, oh, I like that, like defining a transition, because usually it just feels like, I mean, not always, but like, you know, how do you, as an educator, as the person in charge, it often felt so chaotic as to be like, like you try to control it, and sometimes trying to like impose control in those situations makes everything worse. And so I just like the idea that like I could have a structure in my head for what that should look like, so I can have expectations for like, yes, there is a messy middle. Cool. I know what the messy middle is going to look like.
Part of the
I don't know.
process.
That seemed helpful. That seemed helpful.
And I love that that's true for the, you know, the 10-minute transition between the end of the school day and the start of your after school program. And also the transition, like Kim was talking about, where her father is moving into a nursing home. It has that same components, that there's an ending of something, and there is a messy time in the middle that she's kind of in the midst of now. But then there's a new beginning too. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. That was, I guess every time we try something new or impose something, we need to remind us that there will be disequilibrium, right? It's not going to flow nicely. And just that idea of it's messy and there is another end beyond the mess. It may feel like you're in that chaos for a long period of time, but there will be that. And just your example of Sandra would just, you know, life examples, as well as just walking down the hall or changing classes, or like I said, after school. That's a good thing for us as adults to remind us also, like Becky was saying, hey, I got to remember it's going to be messy before it gets a little better, or that that next step is going to smooth out a bit. So I picked up
sorry,
on
Deborah.
that too, Becky.
I was just saying, there was a book I read way back when I was in grad school getting my teaching credential called, I think it was called Finding Esme. And that book has stuck with me for all 20 plus years of my teaching career, where she talks about this moment where an administrator comes in and watches her classroom and is like, it's total chaos in here. And her argument back is, it's absolutely not chaos. Like, this is what's happening there, this is what's happening there, and this is what's happening there. But the right, it's the perception is because the administrator expects to see kids sitting at their, and this was written back in like whatever the 90s, right? The kids sitting at their desk, like that's what the perception was. But like she absolutely knew what all of her students were doing, and they were all doing what they were supposed to be doing. But it looked like chaos, and she used the phrase "controlled chaos." And I was like, yes, that is what the messy like that's what your goal for a messy transition, that middle transition part. Like you want controlled chaos. It may look like chaos, but everyone is going to where they're supposed to go and doing what they're supposed to do. And that kind of chaos is fine. Like that's what we want. And actually, I think it's good for the soul of children who are coming out of days where there are supposed to be like sitting at their desk and focus, right? Like I think a bit of controlled chaos is healthy.
Yeah.
So that's always stuck with me though, that book, by the way.
I think it's healthy for adults as well as children.
I agree. I shouldn't, but yeah, I'm 100% agree with that comment. Everyone needs that moment.
And I'm very proud of that educator who knew what their children were doing, and she could observe, so that she had built those relationships. And Lorna, as I hear your staff and so forth, I hear them building those relationships as you do as well. So when they were talking earlier about, oh my gosh, would you view this as being safe? And they, that got their attention. So they have that respect, and they, know that they have expectations held by you and others, and that then helps calm some of the chaos down when you have to do transitions, right? Because they know that they're going to be there, they're going to be safe, and you care about them. And that really shines through when they can do something new and try something out, right? I mean, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So that kind of makes me think about the second question I had on our list. I think let's start with kind of looking at that one. I think that I was pointing out that throughout this section, there's a lot about being intentional, and I wanted to dive in a little bit. What are your intentions for the time that the kids spend with you? And I realize that not all of us have the joy that Lorna does in working with after school programs directly, but maybe in a more general sense, what are your intentions for what students get out of their after school time, even if it's not necessarily directly with you? As I was thinking about this for myself, I realized that for me, a lot of my intentions are around how kids are feeling. I want them to feel valued in their after school time. I want them to feel capable, that they are seeing their abilities and their capabilities, and that it's safe to explore, to try something new. One of the debates I always had with my son is, can you have fun doing something that you're not good at? When we were trying a new sport, are you only interested in sports that you're good at because it's only fun if you're good at it? Or is it possible to have fun doing something that you're not particularly good at for other reasons? And I think that that's something to explore in after school time, that, can I have fun doing something I'm not good at? What are the things that I'm good at? What are the things that I'm not good at, but they're still fun to do? That sort of exploration, I think, is important for children.
Yeah, my intentions are right along with those, Sandra. I mean, my intentions are those kids are in a safe place, they're having fun, and they get the opportunity to try new things. That's why we're always throwing new things at them, having new clubs, encourage them to try, instead of doing art club again, why don't you try Nebraska Forest Circle? So, well, what is that? Well, why don't you try it and see if you like it? You know what I mean? Try to tell them a little bit. I always want them to always offering these new things to them, new experiences, so they can try, they can try them or try this new game. Obviously intentions are we want them to spend some time getting their homework done, give them that opportunity to get some support and try to get their homework done or get some of it done. And so, but I always do want them to try to learn new skills, to try new things and to learn new skills. That's kind of, obviously you have that you do something for one day and that's a new skill, but then that's why we do clubs like with this, we do clubs. So they meet for 3 to 5 times, once a week, 3 to 5 times, and they focus on that skill. It might be the science club, it might be the horticulture club, it might be the, cheer club. That was fun. They get to practice learning cheers and dances for those times. They get to do science experiments with Mrs. Swinney for, every once a week, every week. So that they find that they really like that. Oh, they like origami, I mean, well, they've never done origami before. Well, they do origami and they do that for 3 or 4 weeks. They get, and then they find out how good they are at it, or they're not, one or the other. And then the next time is in the paras and the staff that teach it. And then we always then the next rotation, I want new students, you know what I mean? You get the kids that want to just always do art, but nope, we want some new students have an opportunity to do art club. You know what I mean? We want some other students have the opportunity to do science club or whatever it is. So they get that opportunity to do it for, because otherwise, and it'd probably be okay if those kids would say, I want to stay in science club for the rest of the year, but we do kind of want to push them and let them try new things. Like, why don't you go try basketball club? Well, I don't know how to play basketball. Well, that's where you're going to learn, you know, or whatever. So I don't know. That's kind of always been my intentions, to give kids the opportunity to learn and do the things that my sons got to do. I guess it's like what I was when they were growing up. Like, I want these kids to have opportunity to learn how to bake cookies, or I want these kids to have the opportunity to go to the state park and go hiking. You know what I mean? Because so many of our children don't have that. I don't know. It's pretty simple to me, but I really want them to have opportunities to learn and grow and to do things they don't get to do at home. They don't have ever have the opportunity to experience, you know? Does that make sense? Is that too simplistic? I don't know. That's always been my intentions.
And you use the word simple. It isn't in simple, because when you're intentionally doing something, you're planning it, you're making sure that you're inclusive, you're making sure that, like you just lovely described, hey, this group, you know, is kind of stuck in the art world, but you know what, we're going to get you a little bit over here baking or whatever, or hey, I like the science. Well, you know what, chemistry and baking is part of science, right? And so, you know, because then you can pull them that way, and then they might really get into the whole culinary field. I mean, you're opening a world of future careers for them also, right? And also addressing what Sandra was talking about. You know what? Gosh, unless I try something, I don't even know if I am good or bad at something, right? If I never touch it. I'm going to give the example of my neighbor lady who is 85 years old. I introduced her to avocados and guacamole. She refused to eat it for 85 years of her life, and she like loves it now, right? And so and so that's just another thing that, you know, you introduce something new even to your diet, or, you know, trying out, just doing something, tweaking it a bit. You don't know if it's going to turn out, and you're just like, hey, I'm all in, you know, let's go for it. Or it might be like, nah, that just didn't, or she might eat it and break out in hives, and then we know she's allergic to it, right? I mean, you can have that whole extreme, but if you never try it, you will never know. So yeah, cool to allow all those experiences. That's awesome. I'm going to be a kid again and come in your program. That's what I want.
I know. And we had last semester, we had a young gal. She's a senior 4-H. I have to tell Sandra this story because you're going to love this. Like, she's a senior 4-H member, senior in high school, 4-H member, state. She just was to National 4-H Congress this fall, you know, over Thanksgiving break. And she's a wonderful, her mother was one of my 4-H members when I was the extension assistant or whatever years ago. Anyhow, she wanted to start, well, we were going to do a sewing club. One of my parents wanted to start a sewing club here at the middle school. I'm like, let's go. I've got the sewing machines. We don't have an FCS teacher here anymore. Oh, I'm all in, you know. Well, she literally emailed me a day after this went up. So I don't know where she even saw it. I suppose on her Twitter or something. I don't know. She saw it, and can I help? I'm like, yes, you can help and you can lead. So she literally led that sewing club last semester. They made quillos. They made little zipper pouches, like cosmetic zipper pouches. And of course, all these students, you know, there might have been 5, 6 are in there. Some nights only a couple showed up, but they loved her, obviously. And then we have this paraprofessional that helps also. And I was, of course, is in there helping on and off, you know, and now this semester, the paraprofessionals kind of taken over, and they're doing a t-shirt quilt for one of the middle school gentlemen coaches. All his t-shirts from his college, whatever, he gave us this whole bag of t-shirts. Well, apparently we're making a t-shirt quilt for him, and so they're going to learn to use their sewing skills. And you know, it's amazing because I had these young men. I have these couple of young men that really are struggling mentally and socially and whatever, and they're just shining. I mean, just shining by doing this. Like, come in, sit down, get their little quilt blocks out, just sew. Like, right before Christmas, this one guy, I'm like, I didn't hear a peep out of him, you know. And this was a kid that when he was in 3rd and 4th grade. I was pulling him out from under, he was under the table at the intermediate school, unable to focus, unable to focus, unable to do anything. Like he was unable to participate in what was going on at that school. But here he is sitting in the corner, sewing his quilt blocks, not saying a word, fabulous the whole time. I'm like, wow, what a difference 3 or 4 years, 3 years make or whatever, So it's just surprising who's going to, would never expect those are the kids that want to come in and do sewing, you know what I mean? Or unbelievable. And they love it. One kid made a pillow for his mom for her birthday, and then I helped him wrap it. We found him a card to give her. He's so excited. And he's a kid that's really struggling with some mental health issues, And so it was just so rewarding to see them succeed in something, because he's not successful in anything else he's doing. You know what I mean? So that one thing. I mean, I took a picture of him, the principal and the counselor. She goes, they both said, I love that smile. We've never seen him smile. And I had a picture of him smiling with his pillow, and they had never seen him smile the whole semester. I'm like, well, I got him to smile several times, so there we go. I know. I'm like, but who had thought? Who had thought?
I think after school is really important, especially for kids that are struggling a lot with the expectations that are on them in the school day, to have those opportunities to be successful in something, whatever it is, because we all have some things that we're good at and some things that we're not. And so what is going to be your success is important to find.
And, and our principal, he knew that too. He knew, like, this kiddo got called in for something happening, and, Dr. Dressel, he calls me like, okay, here's the deal. So-and-so, wants to sew with you tonight. I'm like, okay, can you sew with him for this X amount of time? And then he has to go do homework. I'm like, got it. And you know what I mean? I mean, to have the principal call you and say, will you please? And I said, I happened to be here that day. It was an extra day of doing that, and I wanted him to get this done because I knew this was for his mother's birthday. He was so excited about this. So I was already ready to offer that to him. Like, hey, if you come tonight, we can get this done. And then to have the principal need me to do that for him, and to have him be so happy. And so that's why I took the picture. I'm like, yeah, look what we did. And then I took a picture of him doing his homework. You know what I mean? After that, he went with one of the college students, worked on homework, still probably failed that class, but hey, he did something, which he wasn't doing before that. He got something successfully done, and then he did a little homework, failed the class, I'm sure, but still, I don't know. I think to me, that's a win.
Yeah.
Don't you think? I mean, to me, that was a win for him. I mean, otherwise he's bad, bad stuff's going on.
Finished a thing he wanted to finish. Like, that is, the thing isn't as important as the doing of the thing, right? Like, I mean, we all know that. Yeah. Deb's like, yeah. Right? Like, I think that's great. That would be the kind of success I would celebrate too, over the academics, which I know does not make teachers happy, but I'm all for life skills.
Yeah, because you've got to keep them on board. That's really important too, that they don't give up on themselves or give up on school, because it is hard, because it's always going to be hard. For some students, school is just always going to be hard. You can't expect that next year is going to be easier.
And I think there's like a key story in Lorna's, what Lorna say about like that kid clearly connected with Lorna to help him finish his project, and that like every single interaction that you can have that connects a kid with what's the word that you like, a trusting adult, whatever, like that person. Mm-hmm. Every single interaction is worth its weight in gold.
Right. So, and it only takes one, and maybe I'm his one. I don't know, but
yeah, it does.
And he's very trusts me, talks to me, and I don't. We have a little bit of connection because of where he, he's been at several different schools, and
yeah,
he happens to be at a school of somebody I know, or one of my nephews goes to school, and so we have this little bit of a connection from his prior schools too, a little bit. But yeah, you just feel for, it's just a tough situation, man, bad, hard situation.
Yeah. Actually, Sandra, that reminds me of the other book the making it or whichever one. I was like,
Yeah.
I think that was mentioned in that book. I'm in too many book clubs at the moment. Like all the books are flowing together.
Well, and they should, because we're reading several different books right now about youth development and equipping children. And, this one is about play, but it's also about how you can use that to equip them to make decisions, to be a good risk taker, and to understand the need for order. All of these things are inherent to preparing them for their future. I do want to give time to share games. If you had a game that you wanted to share with the group, our challenge was to share a game that you is a favorite for whatever reason that's not in the game guide, which I found that hard, because a lot of my favorite games from when I was leading playgrounds are already in the Playworks game guides. So that made it a little bit harder. And then I found one and I was so excited. And when I was Googling it so I could share kind of how you play the game, if anybody cared, it's in Playworks too. They have a blog on it. But
I mean, if it wasn't in the book though, it still counts.
it was not in the book. Yeah. But I just think that it reminded me how rich this resource is, the Playworks, that I'd never heard of before we got this book for the conference, that they have so many resources. And I remember when Jean
Can I
and
just say it's super weird for me too, because they clearly are located in the area, like from the Bay Area, which is where I was a kid and was a teacher while they were starting and had no idea they existed. So I feel a little like, whoosh, what I miss.
So who has a game? Go, Becky.
I do. And I don't think I checked the book and there's no name by it. And I just sort of flipped around. I was like, I don't think this one is. All right. So one of my favorite games, I think this actually works in really beautifully with when they were talking about context in here, like when it fits the space and right. So that like mapping this play space and all that. So back when I was a teacher in California, or when I was a whatever educator, and I ran summer camps, and I ran summer camps in this 100-year-old wooden building that was adjacent to the museum I worked for, like really close. But so it had this big square room. Literally, there was no insulation, but this is California, so it doesn't really matter. And so our favorite game was Four Corners. And it was a fantastic game that we used as a transition game, but we also knew, so it worked great for the room because it only works in a room with four corners that you can actually get to without tripping over desks.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's sort of like a key content, right? You guys are like, yeah, I know this one. But I also, one of the things, the issues, and this is kind of what brought up my comment earlier, was we could only play it for so long because the kids would start getting really strategic about like sabotaging other things, or like they start getting in fights about like, did this person make a noise? Anyway, so we've learned it was a really great, like quick 5 to 10 minute transition game. And then we're out, like we're moving on to something else, or we're out the door, or it's lunchtime. But there was like this. So there's a really good context to that one because we could not play that for a long time, but it was perfect in that space because we had 4 empty corners and lots of room to run in the room. And the room was loud, like it was the floor echoed. So you really had to be quiet, or you could, sabotage and be loud. It was such a perfect room for that exact thing, where it was like a loud floor, but without crazy echoing. So it didn't like give you a headache as the, teacher. Anyway, so that's my game that I didn't see in the book, that I love. I used to love to play with my youth.
And Becky, I see Four Corners, my K-1-2s play that in their gym, their little primary gym. They play that game. I kind of didn't really realize that's what it's called, but they play that a lot, where they have to be someone's the picker, right? They run to the corner and they have to guess what corner they're in, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
somebody's in the middle with their eyes closed, and they have to use their ears. We also talked about senses.
The K-1-2s play that a lot. I mean, I've seen them play that a lot. That's kind of fun. I should try it with 3rd and 4th graders. I will try that with them.
It gets a little bit more violent, just so you know. Like, a little bit more strategic. I don't play it with middle schoolers.
Yeah. Okay.
Nope.
So I have a couple. One real quick, but I thought I have another one, a made up one. But the one I really like is like that yard game that is bocce ball. Like I have a couple bocce balls. I love bocce ball. I love having the kids play bocce ball. So I think there's a lot of teamwork. There's a lot of scoring, you know, I mean, and that's something they can play in a really small defined space. We do that outside most of the time, bocce ball, or in the garden in between I like that. But the other one, the first one I had picked first was Dr. Nerf, just because I have this cartoon picture in my office. I've had it for probably 20 years of this Dr. Nerf. Someone drew this for me and it's framed in my office. Dr. Nerf, it's a game that very first when we started had the federal grant, one of my college students made up this game. It's a tag game, kind of Dr. Nerf. So you have Nerf balls. This is middle school kids, so they are throwing the balls at each other, the Nerf balls at each other, but someone's the doctor, and it's a big secret who the doctor is. So the doctor can untag them. You know, it's probably like any other kind of tag game, but the doctor can if you get hit with a Nerf ball, you go down, right? But then the doctor can set you free again, right? But the goal of the other team is to figure out who the doctor is, and then the game ends if they figure out who the doctor is. So you got to be sneaky about untagging people. So that was my game. That's my game, Dr. Nerf.
I like
And
that.
it is with Nerf balls, and it is like throwing balls at each other. Yeah, but they were really soft Nerf balls.
Uh-huh.
I think it's awesome that it was, I want to say, done in a cartoon so that you actually have something that's free. I mean, that I think is so cool.
I had a paraprofessional, let's see.
You went
You
muted.
muted
Yeah,
yourself.
okay, sorry.
There you go.
I had a paraprofessional that was like, worked in our program, right? It's just an artist. Like she had murals around the school that she had painted and stuff. She's an artist. So like, that's back in the day, that's 20 some years ago. Like we did posters, like advertising what was going to happen in the school. They would draw out these fantastic posters, right? And say, oh, we're playing, this one says Dr. Nerf, RX for fun, December 13, 14, then 15. And then she's got it signed in the corner. You know, she's signed it. Yeah. RX for Sea Pride Fun is what it says. And then it's this goofy kid in this guy in this Hawaiian shirt with the Nerf ball. And I have it framed. It's just fabulous. I love it. It's like, I don't know. And like I said, one of my college students who's a teacher at the high school now, he's a teacher at the high school, he's the one that came up with it. And they played it all the time with the middle school kids. And that's, I don't know, it's cool. It's one of my favorite things I'll have to take with me when I retire. Yeah, love that. It just reminds me, I see it when I walk in my office, and it just reminds me why I'm here. We're here to have fun, help kids be safe, learn new things. I see it when I walk in, it just makes me smile every day. So. Exploding Kittens.
They make a bunch of card games, or a bunch of games, and they're great. I don't know. This was one that my oldest kid got as a party gift, and we were like, yeah, sure, we'll try. And then it ended up being like this is what I played with a lot of the cousins, because it just I taught a 3-year-old how to play this game. It was so straightforward, but everyone up to the adults enjoyed it. So it was a great, which would make me think of this would be actually a great, and it's just a set of cards. So it'd be a great game to have in an after school program because literally anybody can play it.
It was at my family Christmas celebration.
Yeah, it's super fun, right?
And we have that taco burrito one too, but
throw burrito.
Yeah, that one.
That one's violent.
We have that one here. I think stuff got broken, so I think it got taken away, but I don't know. Yeah, that's crazy.
There's a rule in our house that's not allowed to be played in our house. We have it, but we don't play it. People get too vehement with the throwing of the burritos. But this was my favorite. Exploding Kittens is great. This was my favorite one that I've come across. Thought I'd share. It's not quite a play game, but
Deb, did you have a game you wanted to share?
Well, I've got hooked on left, right, center, and I've been modifying left, right, center all kinds of different ways. So I did it for Easter when I had 18 people here, and we played it together. And I even had a 2-year-old that got their own soft, squishy dice to roll, and she could tell me how many die were on there and numbers. And the fun thing is her mom was sitting to the right of her. And if you know left, right, center, you roll 3 die, and then based on the number or whatever it's marked, you have 3 objects, and you either put one in the center, or you get to keep it, or you go left and right. And my niece, who the little one belongs to, said, "Oh, to me, Aunt Deb, this is so fabulous because I'm always giving my children money and they have to give me money now," as we were playing. So I modified it for Christmas, and instead I had $5 bills and I went out and bought gift cards to all different restaurants. So each of the gift cards, but I put the gift cards, they were the same amount because that was the first question my children asked, how much are they? And I said, same amount, but I put them in envelopes so they didn't know, one, they didn't know the amount to begin with, and nor did they know where they were from. So as we played them, when someone won, they got to just randomly pick a card and put their name on it. And then we distributed again and kept playing until all the cards had somebody's name on it. So we kept repeatedly playing it. And then the last hand we played for the $5 bills. So there, and somebody got that pot. But it's just been really, I don't know. I had all different ages from, like I said, 2-year-old to myself at Easter, and I had all my children and their significant others. And so I even got a picture the other day. Hey, we went to Outback. Here's a picture. Here's what we bought for dinner. So anyway, I'm just going to modify it and keep
That's
it.
really fun.
I
I
love
like that.
that.
I might do that next year.
And you can either supply the stuff, or you can also, if you've got a large group, say, hey, everybody bring 3 $1 bills.
Yeah.
Right? Or modify it. Or I've done it also with my team. I use $1 lottery tickets. So I stuck in $1 bills and then the $1 lottery tickets, and then the winner got to distribute the lottery tickets to see who randomly got it. So I've just been having really fun doing that.
That does sound like fun. And I'll throw out, just as we're wrapping up, Kick the Can was my game. And because I wanted to introduce an old game to my kids, something that had some history to it, and we could talk about that. But I really noticed the expression on people's faces as you're talking about your game. Your faces light up, and it's really clear that you're excited. That this is a game that's memorable, that you chose because you had really fun memories of that experience. And, it might be that it was an experience from 20 years ago or an experience from 2 weeks ago. But it made you light up. And that's what we want kids. I mean, as we're talking about our intentions for after school, if kids go home and they're describing what they did and their faces light up like yours did as you were introducing your game, that's our intentionality, to give them that experience, to give them someplace that I can count on. Maybe not every day I'm gonna leave after school with that excitement, but that's a place where I can have those moments that really are memorable and fun, and I carry those with me. So thank you for joining us today and for this conversation. I think it was a lot of fun and I enjoyed it. I'm going to leave with a quote from page 130 on the book. It says, "Play helps us create the best possible experiences for kids." And I think that summarizes our discussion today very well. That came from the section that we were talking about. Our next session is February 8th. It's a Thursday again. I kind of like this Thursday. It fits well into my routine. We're going to be covering the last section of the book, 144 to 184. And this one introduces some issues around equity and including all children, leveling the playing field. And it also talks about how do you implement this? How do you put this into practice? So that's kind of our topics for that February session. So thank you all for making this a great experience, and have a wonderful January.
Thanks. You too.
Thanks.
Happy January,
New
everyone.
Year. Happy New Year, everyone. Bye-bye.